Hello, and welcome to my Power Wagon camper build, where I've been documenting my journey of converting this Bureau of Land Management Fire Command vehicle into a more usable pickup truck and platform for an off-road camper. Now, I made some pretty good progress in the last few weeks in reversing the government modifications done to this truck, and I've been getting it ready for long trips by performing routine maintenance like draining the fluids and changing out filters and that sort of thing. And just as a quick update, you may have noticed in a previous video, I used to have a big heavy-duty steel headache rack attached to the bed there. That's been removed, and I just sold it. And the funds from that headache rack will be applied to purchasing more parts. So today I'm going to start by giving the truck a tune-up. I'm going to replace the spark plugs as well as the PCV valve. Now this has a Hemi V8, so there are actually 2 spark plugs per cylinder, so 16 spark plugs total. And accessing the back plugs doesn't seem like it's going to be very easy. Now, I've seen some YouTube videos on this, and some people are gaining access to those rear plugs by going up from underneath the truck. But to me, it looks like it's easier going from the top, so I'm going to try that out first. Now, it does look like I'm going to have to remove some things. I need to remove the engine cover, of course, the coil packs, and the air intake tube, and maybe a couple of other things. And also, in the videos that I've seen, people are recommending this little tool here. It's just the right size socket for the spark plugs. There's a little magnet in there to help hold the plug in place, and it has a nice little swivel that's supposedly just the right size. So this wasn't very expensive. It's about $12 on Amazon. So if it saves me time, this will be worthwhile. So I have a bit of a job to do, so let's get started. Anyway, I'm in the process of taking the intake tube off. I thought I'd show this as a little bit interesting. It is pretty dirty down in there, as you can probably see. So yeah, that not too surprising, honestly. I was rather expecting something like that because the air filter when I got this was super dirty. Well, there's one spark plug out. That was the one in the farthest section there. Only 15 more to go. So right in there is where the first 2 spark plugs are, right next to the firewall. And that big brake booster there, it's really not easy to get to. But not impossible, just not easy. So here are the 16 spark plugs removed. These are the original ones. These are just NGK nickel plugs, just the standard plugs. And these standard nickel plugs have to be replaced every 30,000 miles. So the truck has 71,700, I believe, on the clock. And I'm not sure if these have been replaced or not. It's kind of hard to tell. You know, they're not in great shape, but also not in terrible shape. So there is some corrosion there where the plug meets the block, but pretty much on all of them it is an iron block, so it's not out of the ordinary. So I don't know. I'm not sure if these have been replaced or not, but at any rate, nickel plugs, and I've replaced them with these Laser Iridium, also NGK. This is a 2012 vehicle, and according to the NGK website, for this year model, the nickel plugs were OEM original plugs, but for follow-up models, I don't know if it's 2013 on, but later models they were using iridium, and so that's what I used here. These Laser Iridium, these have a 100,000 mile guarantee from NGK. Here's the PCV valve that came out. There's nothing particularly wrong with this PCV valve, but well, you got the engine cover off and you're there working on it, I figured I might as well go ahead and replace it. Now the reason I'm bringing it up is the interesting thing about this is, this is just what I would call a pretty cheap part, or should be. the last PCV valve I bought was probably $5 or $7. If you buy the original Chrysler part, this PCV valve is $55. Now, I did a little shopping around and found one from Standard Ignition, and this one was $35 or $36, bought off of Amazon. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it had the exact same markings as the original part. It has had the Chrysler logo there, and as well as the Chrysler part number. So I think that perhaps Standard is a supplier, or is one of the suppliers to the OEM part, to Chrysler. And the part was a high quality part. It didn't look like a knockoff or anything like that. So, saved about 20 bucks or so by going that route. Okay, well, that was definitely not the easiest tune-up I've ever done, but I did manage to replace all 16 spark plugs and the PCV valve. And now it did require a little bit of acrobatics, but I did manage to get all 16 plugs from the top side of the engine. And I also had to remove the air intake tube, and when I did so, I noticed that the throttle body had built up a lot of dirt inside, and that's probably from running the engine with the dirty air filter. So I cleaned all that out, and I also cleaned the upper side of the air intake as well. Now, I mentioned this little tool before, and indeed I do think this made the job go a lot easier. I found that I really like the magnet inside better than my other sockets, which just have a rubber grommet. It really holds on to the spark plug really well, and it is just the right size, and it has this swivel built in, which made getting access a lot easier with some of the more stubborn spark plugs. So yeah, I think if you have a Hemi engine and you're going to do a tune-up or replace the plugs, I think this is definitely worth the $12 that I paid for it. And also, the air intake tube is removed now. I'm going to keep it off for now. That's because I have a cold air intake kit on the way. I bought a new kit from S&B Filters. It's in shipment, and as soon as it arrives, I'm going to put it on. This particular kit, this is by S&B, so S&B Filters, and it's a very nice kit. It's a high quality kit, but the cold air intake systems I've installed before were a bit more simplistic than this. This is a pretty complex system, and that once you get a cover put on top of here, it's going to be pretty much all enclosed with the exception of an intake port here. Yeah, so this throttle body was really filthy when I was doing the tune-up. So it was very evident that the air filter had not been changed on a regular basis, and that was obvious already because when I bought the vehicle, even though it had a brand new oil change or a very recent oil change, the air filter was completely clogged. When I pulled it out, just shaking it, particles were going everywhere. So it was in pretty bad shape. Alright, I wanted to show what I'm working on here, and my opinion of this is just a bad design. This is the vent hose here. This guy here, it has to attach to the nipple up there on the intake tube. Now I have the intake tube turned so that it's a little easier to get on there, but the thickness of that hose is almost comical. I mean, it does not bend at all. And I'm supposed to get that basically turned 90 degrees onto that nipple, and it's an extremely tight fit. Even with the grease, I can't get it on all the way easily. So consider it has to bend 90 degrees, and you can see there's almost no room between the engine and that nipple there. That was by no means easy. Getting the crankcase ventilation tube connected was really, really difficult. I mean, the hose I supplied was just way too thick. Unfortunately, I don't have a replacement hose here at the house, and I want to get this done tonight. So I ended up using a heat gun to heat both ends actually, and grease, in order to fit it on to the nipples on both sides. But the biggest issue is, you know, it has to take a 90-degree bend on this end, and then it doesn't come out exactly at the nipple here, so it just the hose is just too thick. It doesn't bend. It doesn't make those 90-degree bends, and on this side it's almost impossible to get it onto the nipple. Like I said, I had to heat it with a heat gun to make it more pliable, and even then it doesn't really fit perfectly. I mean, it doesn't seat perfectly. I wish it was on a little farther. So yeah, I'm not real impressed by that aspect of this kit. So that's it. We have the air intake kit installed. I didn't keep track of the time so much, but yeah, it was not an easy install. So just need to reconnect the intake air temperature sensor. Okay, so this is what the finished product looks like. Cold air intake. You see the filter there. I have to say it's a pretty nice box, and I do like the cover and the filter element as well. So now the only thing left to do is go start it up and see if I did everything correctly. So that's good news. No no check engine lights, just the tire pressure monitor light there. Okay, so I've installed the S&B Filters Cold Air Intake Kit onto the Power Wagon, and I've been driving it around a bit, so I thought I would give my opinions on the kit. So first I'll say that it is made with high quality components, and I did notice a performance boost. Now I haven't really had the truck long enough to give a comparison of fuel economy differences, but I will say that the engine seems to rev a lot faster than it did before, and it does feel like the acceleration has improved as well. I'll also say that the engine is a lot louder now under hard acceleration, almost to the point of being obnoxious. But that just shows that the cold air intake is definitely moving a lot more air through the engine. Now, I also like the fact that the cold air intake kit can be purchased with either a dry filter media or the standard cotton gauze media as well. Now, I've installed cold air intake kits on both of my Jeeps, and compared to both of those kits, this kit was a lot more time consuming and difficult to install. It was quite a chore getting the fender well off and bolting that big air box into place. I finally did manage, but I also had some trouble with the vent tube. In my opinion, the hose that they shipped with the kit was just too thick, and I had a really difficult time getting the 90-degree bends and also getting the hose to fit up on the nipples. Also, that big filter box takes up a lot of real estate, which may prevent me from installing anything in that area in the future, like the air compressor that I want to install. However, I don't think you'll find a better performing cold air intake kit. The filter seems to be reasonably well isolated from any hot air and the occasional water splash, and the size and shape of the air tube seems to be designed for maximizing airflow. But that performance comes at a cost. The kit was not easy to install, and it takes up a lot of real estate in the engine compartment. Now, I think the price was actually quite reasonable. It was $50 less than the K&N cold air intake kit, and that cold air intake kit doesn't even come with an isolation box. So that's my opinion on this kit, and that's about all I have for this video. And as always, thank you for watching.